everyone and welcome. My name is Kudzie Mapiye, and on this channel I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. In today's video I'm going to be talking about buying cars in Australia and the cheapest, the most cost-effective way you can buy the car of your dreams here in Australia. I've done a video before about cost of cars in Australia, and if you're interested to find out about the cost of cars in Australia and the best place to buy cars in Australia, please click on the link in the description box. I have linked that video for you. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about buying the car and being the most pocket friendly way to buy a car. As we all know, around the world, we are in a cost of living crisis. Prices are skyrocketing, prices of everything from commodities like luxuries, everything, house prices, rent, everything is just going through the roof, and a lot of people are trying to save money. But saving money does not necessarily mean that you don't get the things you like or you don't get nice things. So buying a car, having a car is one of the most essential things that you need, as I've spoken about previously in my videos, if you're in Australia, because you need it to move around, if you're gonna, get a job, the most, just to put yourself in a position where you're more mobile and can get, easier access to jobs, etc. It's always good to get a car. Now, today I'm going to be focusing on a few options to buy a car, and I have used all these options in my journey here in Australia, and I want to share my experience of which one I found to be the most cost effective and also the most practical, the easiest to use and everything. So the options I'm going to talk about are buying a car outright, like buying a car cash and paying the full amount of the car, and also buying a car on finance, which means you make weekly repayments for a period of time, usually a few years, and you can usually pay it out earlier. And the third option that I'm going to be talking about is salary sacrificing when it comes to buying a car. And of those three options, I'm going to tell you which one that I found works the best for me. Now, first of all, let's talk about buying cars cash. I remember the first car that I had in Australia, I bought that car cash, and I remember how much I paid. It was 2,000 Australian dollars. And let me tell you, that car was worth 2,000. If you know, the prices of cars in Australia is pretty expensive. So 2,000 is not a lot of money to spend on a car. I was still in uni. It was my very first car, and let me tell you, it looked like, felt like, smelled like it was worth $2,000. And I just got a few lessons from buying a car cash. And I think for most people, when they buy a car cash, it's usually a second-hand car, because that is more affordable. I mean, it's easier to get access to $2,000 than to get access to like 80,000, 100,000, 50,000, 40,000, like for other newer cars. So I paid $2,000 for this car. It was beat up. It needed a lot of maintenance, and anyway, long story short, I ended up returning that car because it was just too beat up and it was literally not functional. But just some lessons from buying cars in cash in general. What I have personally experienced is it's an easier option to buy a car cash if you want a more affordable option and you don't have to worry about weekly repayments. I find that this option works well for people who have unstable income. If you know that you don't have the guarantee to be able to service a loan on a weekly, monthly or fortnightly basis, it's easier to buy a car cash and pay a lower amount for the car. You won't get the best car out there. I've gotten That's a story for another day. The cars that I've managed to buy cash and what I got for my money, that's a story for another day. But some of them have actually lasted me a couple of years, and they did really good by me. So anyway, if you've got unstable income, it's better to buy a car cash. You don't have to worry about repayments. You don't have to worry about like repossession and that stress of just something is due like on a regular basis. The downside of buying a car cash is the servicing of that car, the maintenance of that car is a little bit more expensive. For the cars that I have bought cash, I remember like when it came to servicing, it was so unpredictable because you just send it like, for a service and you just kind of close your eyes and cringe at what the bill was going to be. Usually it'll come up so high, like thousands of dollars. Like it's almost like the price of the car sometimes, because there's a lot to be fixed, and the car is old, so it just takes a lot of money to be able to maintain an older, more affordable car. So that's like the upside and the downside that I found when buying a car cash. But to be honest, I did enjoy that luxury of not having to worry about repayments. However, there are still significant like maintenance costs related to cars. Even if you buy it cash, you've got the servicing of your car, which happens like every year. You've got your registration of the vehicle, and registration costs depend on the type of car that you have. So for a cheaper car, you pay less to register the car, and then for a more expensive car, you pay more. So you still have servicing, you still have registration, and you still have fuel. If you're not like if it's a petrol or diesel car, you still have to pay fuel costs. And sometimes depending on the efficiency of your car, fuel is not cheap as well. It's one of the things that is going up. So you still have ongoing running costs related to that vehicle, even though you paid it up front in cash. So, that's something to think about. If you're looking to buy a car cash, yes, you won't have to pay the repayments for the car, but you still have to maintain the car out of pocket along the way for as long as you have it. And for me personally, I really enjoyed that option. Like when I bought a car cash, I enjoyed not having to owe anyone any money, and I could like literally just sell the car whenever I wanted to sell the car because it was paid off, and like there were no like tricky situations of paperwork. You still have finance on the vehicle and stuff like that. I felt I had a little bit more freedom when it came to like changing over cars. So yeah, that was my experience. The second option is finance. Now finance is where you go like to a car dealership and then or whatever, and then you get a car and you pay a deposit, but you don't pay the full amount for the vehicle. And it's usually like people usually use finance for if you're getting a newer car, even if it's secondhand, it's like not that old, and it's a little bit more reliable, and it's got a bit of a service history sometimes, like so you can kind of see the problems that the car has had, what kind of condition the car is in. And the good thing about buying a car finance is you don't have to have a lot upfront for a deposit. You can have, depending on the car dealership, sometimes you can just put $1,000, sometimes less, depending on the vehicle, sometimes a little bit more. So you don't have to have a lot of money up front, and you can get a pretty decent car that will last you a number of years, but you have to get the car like out of pocket. You have to have the deposit out of pocket, and then you have to pay weekly, monthly, or fortnightly repayments, and it's a set amount and when it comes to finance, it's usually like people usually take out like 5 to 7 years, sometimes 3 years. And the longer you take to pay the loan, the fewer your repayments are. So it's good in that respect, in that it's a little bit more flexible. In like, if you don't have a lot of money, like at that time, you can choose to have a longer term loan and then pay a lower amount. And then you can also like you choose a smaller amount, shorter term loan if you've got a little bit more money and you want to finish the car off, and you can always adjust those periods. So if you took a 3-year loan and you think, oh, I'm really struggling to pay off the repayments, you can go to the bank and they can extend the life of your loan so that it's like 7 years or whatever, and then you pay a little bit less. So that's a little bit of flexibility, especially in tougher financial times. If you need that, you can always negotiate. So those are the benefits of, having a car on finance. The downside of having a car on finance is you owe the bank, or whichever financier has offered you the money to buy the car in the first place. You need to pay them off, and you need to pay them off over a number of years, and you actually get into a contract that you need to sign. So it's a little bit harder to dispose of that vehicle. Even if you try and sell it, you have to tell the person it's on finance. That's obviously not favorable for a lot of people. They don't want to buy car in finance, and you have to sell it at a price where you can cover the loan for the car. Like if you're selling a car, you can't sell it for less than what you owe the bank. So your price won't be as competitive as other people who can lower their price because they don't owe anything on the car. So those are some of the things to think about. But when it comes to repaying, it is a little bit better that you can pay a little bit at a time if you don't have a lump sum of money and you want to buy a pretty decent car. You don't want to buy the beat up car that I bought as my first car. You want a pretty decent car, you can go do it finance. Choose the loan term that is most comfortable for you and your current situations. And the good thing is that you can always pay it off faster. So that's the good thing about finance. Same thing as buying a car cash, you will have ongoing running costs for that vehicle. So that means you need to still have out-of-pocket fuel costs, servicing costs, and registration costs. So those are still out of pocket in addition to the money that you're paying off for the vehicle. So if you add that all up, it can be quite substantial. Now, the last option that I want to talk about, which is also an option that I've used, is salary sacrificing your vehicle. And this to me has out of all the options been the best option I found, especially if we're in times like these, which are more financially unstable times, like cost of living crisis. Salary sacrificing a vehicle, I find, is the best decision, is the best option for car buying. And again, this is my opinion and this is not financial advice. So what the salary sacrificing is when you work for a company, so it's leasing, it's called a novated lease. So you're actually leasing the vehicle. It's like you're renting a vehicle. You're not actually owning the vehicle, you're renting a vehicle. And a lot of companies offer that salary sacrificing for cars, like novated leases. They offer you novated leasing options. A lot of big companies, they will have that option where employees can salary sacrifice. And the good thing about salary sacrificing is they take part of the repayment. So you pay just a little deposit up front, just like if you're buying a car on finance. The difference is when it comes to your repayment, they take money, and that's why you have to do it through the company that employs you, because they take money out of your pay before tax. So what that actually does is it reduces your taxable income, which means that you pay less tax. So let's say you earn $1,000. Let's say you earn $1,000 a week before tax. So they will take, and then your car repayments are $300 or $200 or whatever. They would take maybe part of the amount, not the full amount, part of the amount before the tax. So if it's let's say it's $200 a week, they'll take $100 a week, maybe $100 a week before tax. So now that means your taxable income, it goes from $1,000 to $900. So you're only paying tax on $900 instead of $1,000. So you pay less tax. So they take a part of the amount for the repayment pre-tax, and then they take the rest post-tax. And what happens is they take that money and they put it like in a little bank for you, and that money accumulates like if you paid weekly, monthly, or fortnightly, whatever, every time you get paid, they take that money away and they put it away for you. And then in the meantime, you are paying less tax, and then you don't have any ongoing running costs for the vehicle, because everything is packaged up from the money that they're taking there post-tax and pre-tax. And it usually works out to be like the same amount of money that you pay just for the car alone if you're using finance. So let's say for the same car on finance, you're paying $200 a week. On like novated leasing, you can also pay like maybe $200 a week or $230, but it covers all the running costs of your car, the fuel for the car, the servicing of the car, and the registration of the car. And the novated leasing company manages all that for you. Like, there are apps that you can use where you can either send them the receipt and then they pay it out for you, but you really don't have any out-of-pocket expenses. Everything is packaged up and you pay less tax. And the good thing about it is, even for fuel, you don't have to pay for fuel. They give you a fuel card. So when you go to fuel your car, you just tap on that card and it will have like credit money on there. And then when you go to service your car, like, they have money that you can take from that bank, from the amount of money that you already have. And then you pay off for your servicing. Now, for me, I used to be so scared of novated leasing. I remember when I first got like employed, people would tell me like, oh, you can do novated leasing, and I'll be like, no way, that sounds like novated leasing, that is so complicated. Like, I hadn't really wrapped my head around it. Like, how does that work? That sounds like I can't understand it. No, that's not a good option. And I never used to take that option. But the more I understood about it, and you approach the companies, like the salary sacrificing companies, the novated leasing companies that your company use, and they really explain it to you, they can give you quotations. And the good thing about it is you get a vehicle at a lower cost, because these novated leasing companies, they get vehicles at a discount. And they have like specials, like different specials for vehicles that they have. So you most probably buy a car cheaper on like novated leasing than you would if you just to walk into a car sales yourself, because they have special benefits that they have. You pay less because everything is packaged up, like your running costs for the vehicle and everything, it's all packaged up in one. You don't have to worry about then out of pocket ongoing expenses for the life of that lease. So most, like, you can choose from like I think from 1 to 7 years when it comes to the lease, and the longer the lease is, the less you have to pay. Now, the downside of novated leasing is that if you get out of that company and you go into another company that doesn't offer novated leasing, you now have to take over that management of the car, and it usually works out to be a little more expensive. Now, I think that's why a lot of people sometimes don't go for novated leasing, because they want the freedom to move around to different companies, and they don't know if the company they'll go has novated leasing. But if you're someone who is saying, okay, I know I'm going to stay in this job for a particular time, or if I don't, I'll choose another company that offers novated leasing, which is majority of the companies, a lot of companies. All the companies that I have worked for here in Australia offer novated leasing. So I think all but like a few that I did in uni, which were like a few casual jobs that I didn't stay long in, but all the other like longer jobs that I've done, all those companies have had a novated leasing option. So you don't have to worry about that, and you can always take your car like from one novated lease, like take it from one company, go and to another company and continue your leasing agreement. So that usually works out better. The only downside is if you stop working for a company that has novated leasing, or if you decide to now work for yourself, you don't want to be employed, you have to take over the cost plus some, so it becomes a little bit more expensive. But overall, that is my favorite option for buying cars in Australia. It's like the cheapest option. It's the most convenient. You don't have to worry about ongoing running costs, and you get a large variety of cars to choose from at a discounted price. And I think just in these times, it's just a way to save even on tax. You don't pay as much tax as you would if you didn't have a novated lease. So in the end, it just works out to be more money back in your pocket out of the three options that I've spoken about, which is buying a car cash, buying a car on finance, and the novated leasing option. I find that is the most economical, and when they do the calculations for you, you will really see that you end up paying the car, like you end up just paying, let's say the car that you bought is like 25,000. At the end of like your lease, if you had like a 5-year lease, you would have only paid maybe 27,000, including running costs, including fuel, including like all the maintenance of the car, which is so different. Like if you had paid 25,000 for the car and paid it cash, you would have paid 25,000 or like outright first, and then over the time you've had the car, have to pay like the servicing costs, the fuel costs, the registration costs, and it might all add up to maybe like almost the price of the car, maybe 50,000 or whatever over the time. So you've paid a whole lot more. And if you pay on finance as well, you pay for the 25,000 and then you pay the repayments plus the maintenance plus the fuel. So it really usually works out cheaper. If it's not an option that you've considered before, or if you were like me and you were really scared about novated leasing, you didn't understand it, you thought not a good idea, it's always good to go and look a little bit more into it, and you might find that it's something that will be a really good option for you. But of course, always obtain independent financial advice from a qualified financial advisor and a registered financial advisor. But yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts with you guys. Hopefully it will help someone who's looking to buy a car, or you're looking to come to Australia and you want to know like, what is the best option for me to buy a car? Consider what I've said in this video and choose the right option for you. All right guys, that's all from me, and I'll see you in the next video.